Karen Page is in a lot of trouble right now and going to court. Will she get out of this one? I don't know, but let's talk about it on the other side of the intro. Welcome back to Collard Greens and Nerdy Things, your favorite one-stop shop for all things nerdy. I am your host, King, and this is the greatest co-host in the group of defenders, JC3. And today we are talking about Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 7. If you like what we do over here at the Nerdy Things, drop us a like, a comment, a subscribe, follow us, see us on all our social medias. They're right below us, so check it out. We'd love to see you and we'd love to hear your opinion on the show. But without any further ado, we're just going to hop right into it. And this episode opens up, man, we are in the trial of Karen Page. But before we get there, she is in jail and she gets a visit from the Kingpin himself, who is not, and I mean not, a happy camper. Man, he put his arm through that damn bars and choked her half to death.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was a very tense start to this episode. I believe this is the first time that Fisk and Karen have seen each other since season three. So this encounter was a long time coming, I guess you could say. But just seeing, Karen get processed in the jail, that was a sight to see. It kind of gave us a call back to when we first saw her in season one of Daredevil with that NYPD shirt on. Just kind of shows you how far this show has come ever since that time. But like you said, man, Fisk is not to be played with right now. And Karen is kind of on the edge herself, but in a way of just honestly not giving a damn anymore, which I understand. I mean, in her situation, her case, she's already behind bars. She's about to go on trial. So when she sees the guy that's responsible for all this, she's not going to care about anything she has to say. And my favorite line from her was, "This is the first time that I've seen you scared, and I like it." Like that's what's up. Good on Karen for that. But I was scared for her when Fisk put his hands through those bars to choke her up a little bit. But luckily, he walked away.
I was surprised she wasn't playing with him. She wasn't playing with him at all. She had that pushback, even though she was in a chokehold and he could have just slammed her against the bars or whatever he was going to do. She didn't give a damn. She was ready for the smoke. And like you said, we're looking at a different Karen Page right now. She's dropping some of her morality. She's had enough. Friends are dying. New York is under oppression. She is not having it whatsoever. Or the part that I think is more interesting was when she sat down with Heather. They had that conversation. She's kind of playing Heather. Heather was trying to play her and trying to get her riled up, but it was the opposite. And Heather went to smack the taste out of Karen's mouth, and Karen laughed in her face.
Oh, dude, man, Karen couldn't catch a break in this episode, but she was enjoying every second of it. I did enjoy that, scene between her and Heather, even though it felt kind of out of place for Karen's character to not have sympathy for what Heather's going through. But again, I kind of get it given her circumstance and her situation. I just like the back and forth that they had, Karen just trying to get in Heather's head about, hey, instead of doing your little exercise, how about we talk about the guy that I'm sleeping with that you're not with anymore, that you used to be with? That was a nice little back and forth, and how Heather, kind of tagged her back with, "Hey, I know about Frank Castle. What's Matt think about that?" It's funny how you mention people's relationships and then that just sets them off. I think we are getting closer to a Lady Muse either by this season finale or by season three. And either way, I'm here for it because I would just like to see them do something more interesting with the character anyway, with Heather. So hopefully Lady Muse is coming in very soon.
I 100% agree. What I found was interesting is we had that conversation between Mr. Charles and Jessica Jones. The one big glaring thing that popped out was he said, "Don't you want to talk about Luke?" And we know Luke is overseas doing some stuff for Mr. Charles and the CIA. And this is the first time we get a confirmation that assuming Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are together like they were in the comics, and that child they have is mutually theirs.
Yes, yes, we got a Luke name drop. It's something we already knew, but it's just nice to hear. It still makes me curious on why Luke is deciding to work with Mr. Charles in the first place instead of being with his family and just trying to get away wherever they can. So I figured that's something that we'll cover in the next season, or perhaps a spinoff show, whether that be a Jessica Jones show or Luke Cage. Either way, I'm here for it because I miss our hero from Harlem, man.
I know I miss me some Luke Cage, and there is rumors that they want to do their own Luke Cage show. So I would love for them to wrap that back up. The soundtracks and the stuff they had from the Netflix series for Luke Cage was insane. Disney can do that and kind of amp it up and give us more of a story. I'm here for it. And we definitely know he's going to be in season 3. So maybe we will get an answer to why he's not with his family, or what possessed him to go work overseas, or even for the CIA in general. Or one thing that I forgot to mention earlier with Karen is that she got to get sneaked out for a second to see Daredevil. And the hug that they gave each other and the embrace was dope. And the idea that she was like, I got to stay in here. We got to have the trial. You can't break me out. And he's like, I know.
Honestly, it made me feel good to see that, just because from last week's episode at how at odds they were as a couple, just with Daredevil wanting to save everybody and Karen just kind of being on the side of, hey, some people don't need to be saved. So to have them have this moment here in this episode really felt good. Again, shows growth that both those characters have shown ever since season one. And that also led to a little surprise that we got later on in this episode, because we finally got Matt Murdock back. Matt Murdock, attorney at law. We don't have to question where he's been because his partner isn't, that being Kirsten. We don't have to question why he's not dead. We're just happy that Matt Murdock is here laying down some justice.
Absolutely. That brings me right to my next thought. And it was, I agree that it was just as good to see him again, and a good surprise for the people in the courtroom, and surprise for us. Matt Murdock walks through this door, who has been presumably missing, and Fisk had the entire city out looking for him, even though they were never going to find him. But it was good to see him back in action. And this is the one time that I felt like the lawyer, who we've seen the whole time with Matt, has had more of an edge, more of the upper hand in these conversations, not like we saw in the last trial. They feel a little more on even foot with what they're saying. And it's the most televised event happening, with Fisk on pins and needles watching every second of it.
Well, yeah, because we know that Fisk has his plans, as well going on in the background with his plans to take out the governor. I believe Governor Margaret was her name, and this just shows how just he's going nuts, man. He's starting to lose it, and he's just trying to clasp on to whatever power he has left right now, whatever sanity he has really at this moment. There's a moment, I think, where Fisk is asked by one of his people, like how are you doing? I believe it was like Heather that asked him how he's doing. When you look at his face, you just see a man that's just completely, he's lost everything. He's gone. And now all we have is the Kingpin. So I'm just very excited to see where this finale takes us and what he ends up doing.
Right. And the last time we had saw the governor in this episode, she was on the phone and they were getting the plans together to get Fisk removed from office. That is starting to happen. And Fisk knows that. And that's probably why he sent the hitman to try to, take her out. But we got a nice little surprise from Matt when he talked to Bullseye, and he said, I hate you for killing Foggy, but if you want to balance the scales and you want to make things right, I got a mission for you.
And that mission is saving the governor. which Bullseye does very effectively. That whole scene where you just see he's looking at the governor and she's just in shock, and he just has that casual look on his face, and even has a smile on his face as he's walking away from her estate and the cops are showing up. It just made I'm very satisfied actually with where they have took the character of Bullseye, and it makes me wonder if now if he'll now be used as like an anti-hero more than a villain.
I think that probably will be the direction they're going to go in because now Matt's just let him loose. And we know from some of the set photos and some of the stuff that him and Matt are going to be side by side at some point, whether that be in the next episode, the finale, or whether that's shots that might end up in the next season. Bullseye's loose again. He's outside and he's looking for a bit of redemption for all the bad he's done himself. Fisk is so angry and traumatized and emotional that he even tries to set up the anti-vigilante task force, killing Karen as they come out of the trial before their next trial date, which doesn't really go as well as they thought it would be.
It doesn't go as well as they thought it would be at all. But let me tell you, when they tried to get that hit on Karen, I was very concerned about Cherry. That's one thing about this episode too. Like this episode really made you feel like even though we just lost someone, that we might lose someone else. And I was kind of on pins and needles. I was worried for Cherry, Karen, Matt, and rightfully so for Matt because he's not invincible because this dude got shot in the leg, during that whole excursion. So I imagine, Matt will pull through since this is his show. And we also see him go inside the church and he's, praying just for help and assistance, which I think it's nice that Jessica Jones decided to come into the church right as he was praying for that. Yeah, it's all out war right now, man. And Karen was lucky to get out of that. And Matt barely did.
Earlier this season, man, we thought Cherry was dead. So I'm glad to see that he's actually alive and still kicking because, man, that heart attack almost took that man out. When it comes to, being concerned about somebody who might, die in this episode, that brings me to the biggest part, and that's BB. She's been in some very precarious positions in in these last couple episodes, and even more in this one where she's talking to Daniel and they're trying to figure out what the hell to do. What the hell to do? Buck is gonna want both of them dead, and he wants Daniel to bring BB forward. And because of this relationship that they've built, even though they've both been using each other, they care about each other.
They care about each other very much, and that shows, especially with Daniel's decision later on in the episode. But in the moment, the truth's out, and they really have no choice now at this point but to just be honest with her, with BB confronting Daniel about how he's just turned a blind eye to everything that Fisk has done, including killing BB's uncle. For all this to come to a head, and you just see the struggle for Daniel when he's trying to think of if he should save himself or save his friend. That all comes to a boiling point later on in this episode where we see Daniel actually does make the choice at first to deliver BB to Buck right at the last minute when, she's pleading for him to not, send her off to pasture. He decides to let her go. And for that, Daniel makes the ultimate sacrifice by, letting Buck know, hey, I think she had a birthday party, man. That whole scene with Buck and Daniel, it just, you felt the weight of it because you could just tell that Buck didn't want to do it. Like he was growing really fond of Daniel. They were growing a really good bond together. You could tell he did not want to interrogate this guy, but Daniel left him no choice. I do have to say shout out to Daniel for doing something that I think we all would do. Excuse the language, ladies and gentlemen, but if you're telling the person that's about to beat you to death, if you tell them fuck you first, I think all of us, like once the beating started and you hear Daniel saying, no, please, I feel like we would have switched to being like, no, wait, because Daniel was laying it on our boy until that final gunshot, man. Daniel didn't give up BB, but he definitely paid for it. I didn't even think that I thought it might have been like a fake out. I didn't think that Buck had shot him initially. I didn't see a gunshot go. I heard the sound, I just didn't see the shot. But when I rewound it back, I was like, yeah, he took that boy out. R.I.P. Daniel Blake. Appreciate your service, buddy.
I really didn't see any of this coming. Like you mentioned, I thought he was gonna give BB up. And that pleading really really tugged at his heartstrings. And he was like, take your phone, get the hell out of here. Don't tell nobody. Don't even tell me where you're at. Get the hell out of here. And so by the time he got in front of Buck, he didn't know where she was. He couldn't give her no answers. Buck was getting hella mad. Daniel stuck to his guns and kind of like Karen earlier in that, he just took that ass whooping and was not going to give up any information. And in a couple of times, kind of laughed in Buck's face. He told him the big F you. I didn't think he was dead either. I thought maybe he shot next to his head, but when I looked at it a little bit closer and they kind of showed that still body, we all know the Marvel rules. If they show you they're dead, they're gone. And Daniel is gone. So, y'all, this episode has been kind of crazy. It was a little slower, not a lot of high pace. It's really setting up for this final episode. I really did enjoy it. It wasn't one of my favorite episodes, but I did enjoy what it had to set up. I think we're going to get this big clash at the end, and then something's going to happen that's going to push us right into season 3. So I'm excited to see what happens next week, and you always know we're going to be covering it here. So those are a little bit of my final thoughts for the moment. I'm going to let Jay say his piece and take us on home as always.
Yes, sir. I definitely really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a good, solid episode. I gave it about a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I gave it 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed Matt coming back as a lawyer. That was nice to see. Great character development from Karen, Fisk, Buck, BB, and especially Daniel. Really enjoyed the character moments we got in this episode and the drama we got in it as well. And like my man said, I can't wait to see what this finale gives us. Also, a quick shout out, I believe, to one of the legacy characters that came back in this episode. I believe their name was Brett Mahoney. He showed up in season 1 of Daredevil, was all throughout Daredevil, was also in Jessica Jones and Punisher. So shout out to Disney for bringing back some Netflix characters for us to see, and can't wait to see what they give us next. But guys, thank you for the love. Thank you for the support as always. Keep liking, sharing, subscribing. Y'all know how we do it. As always, stay nerdy, my friends.